Good afternoon and welcome to the November Zoom chat. We're so glad that you've joined us. We're a week early, so I'm glad that you found us. We won't be with you on Thanksgiving, but fear not. There are a lot more opportunities for us to visit virtually after today. We have our release coming up, and we'll talk more about that. December 4th, I believe, is the date for that. And then we'll have another monthly Zoom chat before Christmas. We're going to shift up a week. We'll stick with our last Thursday of the month moving forward, but next month it's going to be a week before Christmas. I think that's the 16th of December. So December 4, December 16, put that on your calendar as our next Zoom events, and we hope that you can join us. We're excited to be with you here today. Kelly and Joe are on assignment, so we're missing them today. What assignment could possibly divert Joe from joining us for a Zoom? Well, he's at the sanctuary, or he's trying to get back. He's a little bit at the mercy of a crew who's doing some veg cleanup there. And so it's always nice to have someone who's very knowledgeable about the sanctuary directing those activities and making sure vegetation that's not being used by condors is safe and secure. So Joe is doing some important work today, and we'll have him back definitely for the releases December 4th. But we're glad to have Darren Gross join us. He will be leading out in our update today, even though his little sign there says Joe. It is Darren, and we have a full crew joining him as well. And I'll let Darren introduce them as we work through our update. I will be sidling over to the chat, so if you have some questions, I'll be fielding those. Oh, and one more thing I might mention, some of you might be seeing some words flashing down on the bottom of the screen, or if not, you can experiment by clicking the live transcript on the bottom. As you RSVP, many of you submitted questions, and one of those questions was, well, can you provide the closed captioning? And so we're experimenting with that, and it looks like it's working today. So we'll see how good the transcription is as we get into some complicated scientific terminology, and we'll see how it does. Also, questions about RSVPing and ways that we can make it easier for you. So look for that coming up next time you register for our next Zoom chats. Exciting changes ahead, and thanks to Kathy and Joan for putting both of those together, the closed captioning and new procedures for RSVPing, which we think will be, which we think you'll like. Now I turn it over to Darren for our update.
All right, thank you, Mike. Let me just get some things set up here on my end. All right, then let me start sharing my screen. All right. Yeah, as Mike said, welcome everyone to our November monthly Zoom update. Yeah, as he said, Joe is out, but I'm happy to be here today to fill in, and I'll certainly do my best to fill those big shoes. But yeah, we're all stoked. We have the rest of the crew here to give you all updates on what's been going on and what we've been up to in the field. So yeah, Mike Stake started us off, one of our senior wildlife biologists, with Joe Burnett, who I'm sure all of you are familiar with as our other senior wildlife biologist. And then we have all the other biologists here, Kara Fadden, Evan McReith, Danae Mouton, and then our interns as well, who have been holding things down at San Simeon and taking care of the birds down there. And that's Carolyn Doyle and Grayson Butas. And then I also want to give a shout out to our tracker and database designer and manager, Tim Huntington, and also awesome Condor photographer. He's really couldn't do this or put this content together without him. And so I just want to make sure he gets mentioned here too. Yeah, so as Mike said, Joe's busy up at our big Sur Sanctuary, helping with some rebuild activities. I think specifically today they're removing some hazard trees. But this whole week he's been up there helping this crew remove what's been left of the damage from the fire that's been keeping us from rebuilding. So after this week and after the hazard trees are removed today, we'll be all cleared to go and be able to get started in hauling up materials there and start building the new release pen and our new facilities up there. So we're all really excited about that. And then one of our major event coming up here, as Mike said, is the second San Simeon release and a Nicos release on December 4th. So yeah, we hope all of you can tune in for that as well. It's a big moment, something we've all been waiting anxiously for and are really excited for. And it's been quite a journey for Eniko. And just to kind of reflect back on that a little bit, I wanted to show her release or rescue video again from back in October of 2020. And just to remind folks, or for folks who are not familiar, Eniko was, her nest was in this location that was burned over by the Dolan fire, and she survived. But unfortunately, it took the life of her father, Condor 167 Kingpin. And when that happened, we had another male Condor try to move into the area and take over that territory. And when that happened, in the scuffle that sort of ensued, Eniko was forced out of her nest cavity and was forced to the ground there, which was shown at the beginning of the video here. And she seemed okay, but she really wasn't moving much. And when she did move, it looked like she had a bit of a limp. So we decided it would be best for us to go and get her out of that area just to be safe and make sure she was okay. And if she wasn't okay, to make sure she could get the treatment that she needed. So yeah, we went out there and trapped her and then hauled her out of the area and took her to LA Zoo. And, you know, being in the moment and then watching this video again, it's kind of, in the moment, we weren't all thinking about everything that it kind of entailed, but seeing it now with, you know, having to get Eniko first in hand and then get her in a kennel and then hike her out of that area. It was quite the operation. Yeah, Evan, how did it feel there, having the literal weight of Eniko's world on your back, hiking her out?
Yeah, I don't know. That was a really crazy time. You know, it was pretty early on in my career as a biologist with Ventana. I was only here a couple of months, and we didn't have much of a plan. We just, we put together a plan, but we didn't know how it was going to work. There was a few miles to hike in. All the area was ashy and everything. It was kind of crazy. Every step was kind of a little wobbly, or you slip and slide a little bit. Yeah, no, it was crazy to go in there. I remember how careful like Darren was once we were able to get Eniko. We all were kind of bracing each other as he was climbing up the mountainside. We finally got to a safe spot where we could put Eniko into the kennel, and yeah, we strapped him to my back, and it was quite the adventure on the way back down. There were fallen trees we had to jump over, and yeah, it was awesome to see the team working together so well. Everybody had each other's backs, and we were all there, just making sure that Eniko was safe. And it was a great feeling to be able to put that kennel in the truck that day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that, Evan. That was great. A great sort of recap for all of us of what we all experienced that day, getting Eniko out of there. But yeah, as I said, I mean, it's been such a journey for her. We're just so excited now that we finally get to release her back into the wild. But, you know, in the meantime, she still has a few more days there at the pen in San Simeon. And so for more of an update on how Eniko's doing down there, and also the other birds that we recently released and the birds that are still in the pen, we'll turn it over to Carolyn and Grayson for a bit here. And yeah, we'll start with the birds that we released a little while back here. How are the most recent releases doing?
1038 and 1036 are doing great. They're here all the time. They haven't really left the pen. So they kind of just hang out right outside the pen and in the trees around the pen. 1019, we still pick her up on our signals almost every day. But she's more of a explorer. We have not seen her since what, the 5th?
Yeah, she hasn't been at the pen since November 5th, actually.
But we know where she is. She's actually not too far down from the pen at all. She's like right down the mountain, basically.
Like a couple miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's so close. I know we'll see her back there soon. So she just got to figure it out. We always seem to have one bird that's a little eager to go explore at first, and then eventually they'll realize like, oh darn, I'm hungry again, and then they'll make their way back. But yeah, so hopefully that happens soon. But yeah, you guys sent me some great photos to use for this, and yeah, I love this one. They're pretty much illustrating exactly what you said about how 1036 and 1038 never leave the slope. This is one of the trees that's right outside, and as you can see, they're both pretty comfortable up there, and they don't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, 1038 and 1036 kind of take turns perching above the camera, actually. So whoever's watching the live cam, they're probably right on top of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then yeah, the birds that we're going to be releasing here soon, how are those guys doing?
Doing great. 1042 is definitely finding her way in the dominance hierarchy a lot, fighting back more that the other ones are gone, I think. Definitely one of the more dominant ones nowadays. And you want to take 1011?
Yeah, Diane's doing great too. She can hold her own with the Yurok birds, and yeah, everyone's been doing good in the pen.
Yeah, that's great. It's funny how that happens, the shifts in hierarchy as you let some birds out and see how things change. It's always interesting to see how those dynamics are going to change. And then yeah, Eniko how's she been doing in there?
Amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's doing really well. Definitely fighting back a lot more than she used to when she first got there. She is, I would say, like, she takes on like the Yurok birds way more. She used to just kind of sit in the background and wait, and now she like goes in there with the rest of them. So she is ready to get out there.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, it can take them a little time to get adjusted, but that's really encouraging to hear how she's adjusting, well, how she's getting more comfortable and sticking up for herself. That's awesome. And then yeah, speaking of those birds, again, just a reminder for everyone, we're holding 4 birds that will eventually go up to Northern California to be released by the Yurok and Redwood National Park operation. They're putting the finishing touches on their flight pen and finishing up some other stuff. But once they have that finished, we'll be taking these 4 birds up there for them. But yeah, how have they been doing? Just still holding things down in there?
Yeah, 1045 still the dominant for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely has seemed that way too to me every time I've gone down there. But yeah, that's great. Thank you both for the update. That's awesome. And then yeah, also, like, I know you guys have seen some of the other free flying birds come down to visit, and 2 of the most common residents in appearances seem to be I know you guys have been calling them the boys, 566 and 711. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, how have they been doing out there?
They are amazing as usual. My favorite thing in the morning, especially like right after we feed out the night before, is like they're always together on the branch, like in this picture, and then they'll like rub necks with each other and just like cuddle, and it's just really cute. Actually, today 904, and I think there's a photo in here later, but was kind of trying to snuggle up on 566, and right afterwards 711 came crashing into the tree and was like, and chased off 904 because that's his friend.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's awesome. Yeah, it seems like they're there, rain or shine, as this picture on the left here shows. Great shots from both you guys with them. But yeah, they are true to this site for sure.
Yeah.
And then yeah, these guys 890 and 894, they're kind of more recent visitors, right?
Yeah, I've actually don't remember seeing 890 before today. Actually.
Yeah, they were both here today, so that was cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to say they were both released from San Simeon back in 2018. I'm pretty sure both of them were. So yeah, a bit of a homecoming for them. They don't spend as much time there anymore, but they're still pretty familiar with the site. So yeah, it's cool to see them come back and visit.
Yeah,
and yeah, another bird. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Grayson, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying they were like hanging out with each other a lot today, like following each other around. So I think they're pals.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 904, I know you just mentioned it. There's that person you were talking about trying to nuzzle up with 566. But yeah, 904, he's been there a couple times, right?
Yeah, he comes by pretty regularly.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, he was released from down there, I think 2 years ago. Yeah, 2019. So yeah, I think a few of these birds I got here are San Simeon alumni, as we like to say. So
Yeah.
yeah. And then this is a bird from Pinnacles, actually 943. But he's been coming around a bit too, right?
Yeah, 943 cracks me up. He always comes by like right next to the window of the blind and like tries to peek in and figure out what's in there, I guess. And sometimes like I have to like hide for a while because he won't leave.
Yeah, they're very curious about that whole area. That's funny. Some folks have been following us for a while and been following Pinnacles or the Pinnacles birds for a while might remember 943 actually had a can stuck on his beak earlier this summer. So it's been great to see that off of him. I mean, and I know he's had it off for a while now, but still great to see him doing his thing, back to normal, not having to deal with that anymore and looking great. So yeah, it's awesome that he's been coming down to San Simeon. And then yeah, 990 was this recently or a little while ago?
I think that was last week actually.
Okay.
Yeah, he comes around sometimes too. And he was flying around the pen and I was able to get that picture.
Yeah, that's a great shot. Yeah, I think he was released a year ago. So yeah, it's again cool. He's probably wondering if this is his first time back since we've had birds in there. He's probably might be bringing back some memories. He's probably happy that he's released, and he'll be happy for the other birds that are coming out too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you guys again for the San Simeon update. We'll move into some movements of the San Simeon birds and then the big Sur birds now. And Evan's created some awesome maps for that as usual. This right here is just showing some of the movements from last year, and I'll let Evan explain a little more here.
Yeah. So this is actually just a repeat of I reusing the map from last year. I didn't recreate it, but it really shows how these new release birds slowly move into the population and how they cover and merge into some of the older adult like Condor range. So I thought this was a really good map just to use right now to kind of identify when we can expect when these new release birds are going to start to morph into the population, and then also like when we might see them in big Sur. So especially now in Eniko, I think a lot of people are curious, including myself, when Eniko is going to be reunited with her mother, 190, who typically stays in big Sur. So based on this map, it looks like maybe not until month 3 or 4 is when a lot of the birds from last year were working their way back up, and we saw some of our first visuals on the live camera. But it's hard to say. I think Darren and some people that have been around longer know of birds that get out there and move around really early on. So it's hard to really predict how quickly they'll move out. But it's going to be really cool to see the GPS data that comes off all these birds. Each one of the released birds have a GPS unit on them. So we'll be watching them that way. And I know Carolyn and Grayson are down there keeping a really awesome eye on them. So there's a lot of exciting stuff that's to come with the new release birds.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Evan. Yeah, we're all excited to see how these birds move around. Yeah, it definitely took last year's cohort. They took their time, but they were very comfortable down there all together at San Simeon for a few months. But it was definitely cool to see, like as this map shows, how they slowly expanded, and also how it's in some ways how quickly they expanded. Like just looking at from month 5 to 6, how things really seemed to explode there. They really covered some ground. But yeah, we'll see what happens with this cohort. It's always interesting to see what's going to happen. Yeah, and then we thought it would be cool to show for some of the big Sur Birds who've been free flying for a while, to sort of show in the last month or so with the movements they've been making. And so yeah, I'll let Evan and Kara kind of explain this and what this map is displaying.
Sure, yeah. I kind of put this together just to show this seemed like a pretty normal month. We didn't have any crazy expeditions up north or down south. But what this map is showing is just the Ventana Wildlife Society managed birds. So we're not including any of the Pinnacle birds on this map specifically, but you could see the bar graph at the bottom has the travel distance in the past 30 days for each of our birds. And, one thing that, is really stands out to me is that are the new release birds definitely are the ones that traveled the least. You can see that they just a few miles from San Simeon. But also we have a lot of activity among the nesting or the birds with chicks right now. So 538 had the highest or the farthest distance traveled this past month with over 1,500 miles logged, which is really impressive. You could see that her distance is a lot higher than, some of the 900 birds that are listed there. And I think that's probably attributed to, she's feeding a chick. So she's looking for food and she's moving back and forth between base camp and up in Big Sur and Pinnacles where they're putting out food as well, moving all around. And yeah, I thought this map would help show and visualize how far these birds are traveling. That's a crazy distance to travel, I'd say. Is I think it was like 1,600 miles for the whole month.
But yeah, I was gonna say it's cool because we know condors can travel so far in a day, but then also kind of to see all their flight paths and kind of put those numbers to a map. It's really awesome to look at.
Yeah, I think, you hit it on the head, Kara. I think we hear all the time about how far they travel, but it's hard to grasp what that really means until we can visualize it like this. So yeah, thank you guys both for talking about that and explaining it and putting this together for us today. So a quick population update. With the 3 birds we released in San Simeon a couple weeks ago, we are up to 88 total birds in the Central California population. All of the chicks we had between Big Sur and Pinnacles National Park this year, they have all fledged, so they are included in that number of the 88 birds now. And that number should boost again here in a week, a little over a week, when we release the other 3 birds from San Simeon. So yeah, we're excited for that. And we thankfully, unfortunately, we have no new mortalities to report. We're still at 13 condor deaths for the year in 2021. And yeah, it's still a lot, but again, I think one of the most important sort of things to take away from that is that lead poisoning is responsible for most of them. Nine of those 13 deaths were caused by lead poisoning, and that's again the major threat we're working to overcome in helping these birds get back up to just a healthier status and boost their population numbers. So now moving on to some Big Sur updates, and just kind of what we've seen, some stuff we've seen in the field. And I know this the next couple photos were taken from Evan and Danae. They got to see some awesome feeding activities and interactions up at Big Sur. So yeah, do you guys want to talk a little bit about what you saw?
Sure, I can take this one since Evan's been doing some talking. Yeah, it was really awesome to be up there. That was kind of my first time up at base camp, where there's been a ton of birds there the day after we did a feed out. So it was really cool for me just to get to see a lot of interactions amongst a lot of the older birds in the Ventana flock. I'm very familiar with a lot of the old Pinnacles birds, but I'm really not super familiar with a lot of the old Ventana birds. So it was really cool to see especially 209 and 219 were both there. 219 is one of my favorite birds, Puff Daddy, just because he's so puffy, and he was really cool to see in person. It's been a long time since I've seen him, and he and 219 were definitely going at it together, you know, kind of challenging each other for dominance. A lot of the pairs showed up and were hanging out. You can see 538 in that picture, and 190 and 477 were there. So it's really cool just to see a lot of these pairs that nest out on the coast all feeding together and hanging out. And there was also a couple younger birds there hanging out as well. You could see 915 in that photo too. There's a couple Pinnacles birds that we released last year, 970 and 972, and they were both there, which it doesn't seem like they come out to the coast too often. So it was really cool to see them. Yeah, there's 972 taking a bath. That was really awesome. 209 was definitely hogging the bath. So it was nice to let a few others take baths. But yeah, really awesome to see all those birds hanging out. I think we had almost 30 visuals of birds while we were there during the day. So obviously very cool to get to see all those birds hanging out, and they were all just going to town on the cows. So it was really, really awesome visuals, and everyone was getting along pretty well for the most part. I was surprised there weren't more dominance disputes or anything like that. They were all coexisting really well, and everyone was getting a chance to feed. So really, really awesome day up there for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Danae. That was great. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. Like this, you got to see everything that day. Like it's always cool to see all those birds up there interacting with each other, and also kind of getting into a frenzy with the cow carcasses we put out. And yeah, they definitely love this bath, as you can see in this photo of 972. Yeah, Evan, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I don't like. Just to hit on it again, it was an awesome day up there. I'm sure a lot of viewers that watched the live camera saw a lot of this activity going on. But yeah, we got to see everything. We're sitting on the edge of our seat though, just waiting for some pairing and breeding activity. It's starting to get close to that time of year where we're looking for displays and just seeing who's hanging out with who. So we didn't see anything revealing of, you know, who some of these new pairs might be, or potential pairs for this coming season, but it's getting close. So that's about the only thing we didn't see up there was anything like that, but we'll keep watching.
Cool. Yeah, thank you guys. A quick update on Condor 663 Junipero. So again, we don't have any recorded visuals like this photo since October 15th, but we have been seeing him and picking him up through our radio signals more recently. And the most recent visual was actually this past weekend by Tim Huntington while he was out tracking. He saw 663 both flying around a bit and perching in some places around Big Sur and some areas that he frequents. So we know he's still doing okay, despite that leg injury. He's still finding a way, and we're definitely pulling for him and keeping a close eye on him whenever we can. So as I said before, moving into some nest update stuff, you know, all the chicks have fledged, and all those chicks are kind of figuring their way out, moving around, trying to figure out how to fly, and that frequently means that they get into places where it's hard for us to access and get visuals of them. So one of the best things we can do to keep track of them is pay attention to what the parents are doing. And yeah, as Evan and Danae explained, they got some great visuals of a lot of the parents of the chicks that we have and that have fledged more recently here. So in this photo, you can see 550 and 652. They are the parents of 1095. They're both up there at the Big Sur site, feeding and getting food, both for themselves, but also to go find their chick wherever he's managed to get himself and get food to that bird. 538 is, as Danae mentioned before, and as Evan mentioned with the traveling that she's done in the past month. I mean, she's been covering a lot of ground to find food for her chick and her and 574's chick, which is that chick number is 1104. And so this again, just like we try to get food out on the Big Sur Sanctuary just to keep these parents. So just give them a regular source of food to make sure they can keep their chicks fed and healthy. And then one of the photos I I included in here from Tim Huntington was of 646 flying over the ocean looking for food in some of her favorite places to go, and he got this awesome photo of her with this pod of Rizzo's dolphins swimming in the background. And yeah, he always manages to come through with one of these amazing shots. It seems like every time we have a Zoom update. So we're glad he got to provide this to us for the update today. And yeah, we're just pulling for all these parents, keeping a close eye, making sure they're getting food for their chicks. And just a quick sort of rundown of the chicks again from this past year. So in Big Sur, we have a chick 1077 who, again, just following 663's movements. It certainly seems like he's still going back and caring for that chick. We're very sure that chick is fledged at this point. But it still seems like he's kind of hanging around the nest area, or the area that's more of Junipero's regular territory. And unfortunately, the female in that pair, Pinnacles bird 438, she died this past summer. So 663's been on his own raising that chick for a while, but he's been doing a great job and he's really been pulling through, especially with that injury. We have chick 1089, who is the chick of Condor 204 Amigo and 646 Kodama, who I just showed. And then 1095, who I just mentioned, who's the chick of 652 Ferdinand and Pinnacles female 550. And then the last chick here on the coast that we had is chick 1104, whose parents are 538 Miracle and 574 Nomad. And then there were two chicks from Pinnacles as well that had fledged just before last month's Zoom update, I believe. And that was 1078, whose parents are 589 and 569 Phoebe. And then also chick 1096, whose parents are 340 and 236 Tiny. So as I said, one of the best ways for us to keep track of the fledged chicks is to pay attention to the parents, but on occasion we do get some great views of the chicks after, or shortly after they fledged as well. And so Evan and Danae got some great shots of 1104 a couple days ago when they went out to see if they could get a visual of him. And we hadn't really seen him since his fledge in, I think, around mid-September. So this was an awesome thing to be able to get some footage of and just be able to see him flying around and see how he's doing. So yeah, Evan and Danae, I'll kind of throw it back to you guys to talk about that day and what you saw and how exciting it was.
Sure. I can start us off, and Evan, feel free to jump in if there's things you want to add. But yeah, we were kind of going out towards the Nest Canyon to try to get a visual of 1104, and we were able to pick up 574's radio signal really strong in the Nest Canyon area kind of as we were hiking in. And so usually that's a good way to find recently fledged chicks, is to look for the parents, because they're normally hanging out nearby where the chicks are. And so we kind of were just following his signal and really scanning all the trees around us, hoping to get a visual of either a parent or a fledgling. And a bird started coming close to us in the air, flying in, and we had just picked up a signal for 538 as well. And so my initial reaction was, oh, this is 538 coming in. We just started getting her signal, so she must be coming in to feed the chick. The bird was flying super well and soaring just like an adult bird would. So I assumed it was an adult. And then as soon as I got the binoculars on it, realized that it was not an adult. It was 1104. So that bird, he/she, is doing really awesome, did some really great flights and came in and perched in a tree pretty close to us and was awesome on the landing. Yeah, it's an awesome shot of him or her in that tree. Definitely did a great job coming into land and seemed very coordinated in the air, which I was very impressed. To me, I think in my experience, it usually takes a little bit longer for them to get that coordinated. So that bird is looking really awesome. We got to watch it do a couple more flights and was soaring up and out of the Nest Canyon as we were heading out, and just making some really awesome soaring flights, not really flapping its wings too much. So figuring out how to ride the thermals just like the adults do, and looked really great. We didn't end up seeing either parent, but we're getting their signals very strong. So they were definitely close by, keeping an eye on their youngster, but really, really cool to see. And yeah, Evan got some awesome photos while we were out there.
Yeah, thanks today. I don't know if it comes through in the photos, but one thing that I'd like to point out is these are not areas that are along a trail. We definitely had to hike down into canyons and off trail, and We got so lucky that day. We both were ecstatic about seeing this bird flying around in the canyon. We didn't know if we would see anything. And yeah, just getting out there and seeing so much activity with that bird was heartwarming. We were just, yeah, ecstatic about it. So we also fed at a provisional feeding spot that we often go out to that day. So I think we're both excited to, you know, check that Chiro camera and see if we have any activity, you know, in the coming weeks of that chick feeding, perhaps for the first time on its own at that carcass we put out.
Yeah, thank you guys. That was awesome. It was so cool to hear about your experiences and see these photos of 1104 out there, just like having a good time and getting his wings under him and really doing a great job. You know, as you said, Danae, I mean, it's only been like 2 months since he's fledged, and he's doing really well, flying around that much already, getting that much air and everything. So yeah, we were stoked to get that visual and just see this chick do so well. That'll pretty much do it for our field update. But just to remind you guys of some upcoming events. So as we've said before, you know, the next release from San Simeon will be on Saturday, December 4th. It'll be using the same Zoom code you guys used today. It will start at 9:30, and we will open the doors to release the birds at 10 a.m. And then we'll see what happens after that. The birds could go out right away, or they could take their time. But yeah, we're all looking forward to that, getting Eniko and the 1042 and 1011 out there. And then our next monthly Zoom chat will be December 16th at 4 p.m. And again, same code as the one you used today and for the release. So we hope to see you guys all there. And we'll have a special guest joining us for the release on December 4th, Dr. Tara Stowinski, the president and CEO and chief scientific officer for the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund, will be joining us just to talk about conservation. And yeah, we're so fortunate that she's gonna be able to join us and talk to us. And we're stoked that she'll be able to get to see her bird get released. That'll be awesome. We're so happy to be able to have her join us, and we're really looking forward to that. So yeah, thank you guys. And yeah, I know Mike is gonna lead us into some questions now, but yeah, we really appreciate everyone joining us today and have given us the chance to talk to you all about what we do in the field and all of our experiences with these amazing birds.
Thank you, Darren. That was great. Thank you, crew. And Darren, you checked off a lot of the questions that people had. So we're off to a good start, but there are many more. I'll start with one sort of confirmation question, just to kind of circle back to the Yurok tribe releasing birds in Redwood National Park. We're bringing them forward, and from what I understand, maybe the timetable hasn't been set exactly. Is that right? We're just sort of waiting for their pen to get finished. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think there's a general timetable of spring 2022 for when we will transfer those birds up to Northern California. But no, beyond that, we do not have anything more specific or exact at this point.
Okay, so they'll be here for a little while, here being San Simeon. And will the crew be in the blind for moving forward, doing a lot of observations of these Yurok birds even after the December 4 release?
Yes, yeah, actually Carolyn and Grayson will still be kicking butt down there, doing obs in the pen. Just anytime we have birds in the pen down there, we got to keep an eye on them as much as possible. Just make sure they're doing okay or not getting into troubles. On occasion, you know, sometimes birds can get into scuffles that can cause injury. So we just got to make sure that nothing like that happens, or that we're there to take care of it if something like that does happen. So yeah, even past the release, when the 4 Yurok birds are still in the pen, Carolyn and Grayson will be doing observations both in the morning and in the afternoon each day to make sure those birds are all good.
Yeah, and the birds that are going up to Redwood National Park, we mentioned that they will be released with a mentor bird. After all, they're pioneering a whole new population up there. And I believe last time we identified who that bird is, and there was a question on who specifically it is. And I don't remember, I think it's not one of our birds. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is not one of our birds, but I am with you on forgetting who the bird is that is going to be the mentor bird.
Yeah, it is a number that we identified in the previous chat, and it was a bird that I was unfamiliar with, and so we'll circle back to that at some point in our Zoom chats. There are people that are really watching everything that you do with these birds, and so all of the details are really being watched, whether on explore.org or on our website or through the Zoom chats. So there's some questions about the 2020 releases in San Simeon and how those birds are doing. And I did a quick little look on our database, and the ones they were asking about, Jess in particular in South Bend, Indiana. Glad to have you with us. 962, 966, that's Soto and Peachy, and 994, Joaquin. I did a little check, and it looks like those birds are spending time at Pinnacles. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's correct. Most of those birds have kind of made Pinnacles their new home, which is pretty typical for the San Simeon birds. Most of our cohorts end up going over to Pinnacles National Park and coming up to Big Sur, but they seem to be more comfortable out there at Pinnacles National Park, which is great for us to see. You see them integrate with the flock out there and really make that their home. Yeah,
certainly a good time of year to spend some time at Pinnacles for sure.
Yeah.
This is where I get impressed. The question continues. 957, Moorish and Peachy no longer have double tags and transmitters. And so that's something I didn't notice, but somewhere along the way, I guess those birds had one of their transmitters and tags removed. You can comment on that particularly, but in general, what sort of decision process is it to remove or place tags on different wings and such?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are several things we look for in making those decisions. With 957 and 966 specifically, their GPS transmitters stopped working. So we wanted to remove those to bring them back to our office, look at them, and determine if we could get them refurbished or sent out to get fixed to then potentially use again in the future. Another thing we're looking for when we're determining whether to give a bird a GPS transmitter or remove a transmitter is how the punctures look that are used to hold those transmitters. And so sometimes, over time they get a little old and there's just sort of signs of aging there, and we just don't want to cause any harm to these birds. And so we'll remove transmitters at a point where it seems like the wings would be better off without them.
Yeah, great. And a follow-up from Lori on the Yurok tribe releases. Is it just the 4 birds we're holding that will be released in the spring, or there are other birds coming for that next year's release?
I believe it's just the 4 to start, and I think it will be only those 4 in 2022.
And in future years, that group will be augmented by additional birds, and so it'll be sort of a steady growth of that population.
Yep, exactly.
Very good. A question from Pat in Alameda, California, and asks, rumor has it, okay, we got a rumor here, I guess, going, that a condor from Pinnacles has done 1 or 2 reconnaissance flights to Mount Diablo in the Walnut Creek area. Maybe I can bring Evan in on that. He's sort of monitoring the maps. Is this a true rumor, Evan? What can you say about this? Do we know which condor that may have been? And is this a condor that's sort of one of those travelers?
Yeah. So what's really awesome about that is 828 does have a GPS unit on it. So this was a bird that we were able to follow and collect data on a a trip up to Mount Diablo, which I believe is about 100 miles north of Pinnacles National Park. So an enormous flight. Unbelievable to see that bird up there. I know there was a lot of news coverage on this, actually. There were some news stations that covered it. And from that, I learned that that was the first time in almost 100 years that a condor was in the Mount Diablo area. So that was totally exciting. It was well documented. I don't know if it's the only case, you know, because not all of our birds have GPS units on it. So it's hard to say if other birds have been up there, but it had haven't been any other sightings that I know of. Yeah, I don't know. That was just an amazing flight, amazing path. 828 is a bird that has been moving around quite a bit. It's been really interesting to watch her move around. She's kind of in that mid-range class where she's getting ready to be sexually mature. So perhaps she'll pair up this year, and maybe that has something to do with these long flights that she's been doing over the past few months. But it's been exciting to watch, that's for sure.
In the thanks, Evan. In the pictures that you showed, and a lot of comments on the great photos. That photo of the fledged chick is pretty spectacular. I love to see those pristine plumages, birds coming out of the nest. It's so great. Callie noticed on one of the pictures of 7-Eleven, she was asking if there was a burn scar on that bird, and maybe you know or don't know in particular about 7-Eleven, but maybe I can broaden it in general. Have we noticed lingering burn scars from that fire, and any birds that are sort of carrying these scars from that?
Yep. So yeah, I did see that comment. I was really excited to see it, but in the photo, in person, I haven't really noticed a lot of scarring or anything like that. I'm excited to go back and look a little closer to see, because I remember 7-Eleven had pretty significant scarring. It looked like a zebra stripe along his neck. So yeah, I definitely want to get a little closer to see if there's any thing lingering behind. I don't know if anybody else has seen anything though.
We haven't noticed anything, but in that photo of 7-Eleven and 566, the one whose crop is visible, that's 566. And I think that actually might be P, the scar on the crop in that photo. But I have noticed on 7-Eleven the zebra stripes on his neck that you're talking about. It looks really cool, actually.
Yeah, and all of you are really obviously getting close looks at these birds if you're taking such close photographs of the visitors coming into the pen in San Simeon. But I guess we have, since the fire, lost that trapping component at Big Sur, where we regularly get our hands on the bird and really do that sort of physical exam. So yeah, maybe we haven't seen some of the residual scars from that fire.
I do know for 7-Eleven, just to jump in, he was a bird that was handled at Pinnacles, I believe within the past year. And we definitely did see scarring on him after the fire. By the time we handled him, we didn't really see much evidence of really severe scarring or anything. It seems like the birds healed really fast after the fire, and the ones that we did see with some scarring visually, when we did see them in the hand, a lot of them had really started to heal almost completely by the time we were handling birds. So it is pretty amazing how fast the birds can heal from these kind of things. You know, the type of burns where it take humans a really long time to heal, it seems like they can just recover so much quicker. So yeah, it's awesome to see 7-Eleven looking very healthy and beautiful, and not really showing a ton of signs of being in that fire, even though he was definitely affected by it. So yeah, really cool.
Yeah, it's great to hear your observation that the birds do heal very quickly, and that hopefully they have recovered from the fire. You know, Darren, can you guess what the leading question has been on our RSVP advanced questions submission? Do you have any idea what that might be?
I'm not
No,
I
usually
don't know.
usually the top question is how's Eniko doing, but
I was gonna say.
get to watch Eniko all the time in the San Simeon pen, so on live camera. So the latest top question has to do with the big story in the headlines about condors reproducing without a male. And so there are many questions about that. Would you like to take a stab at commenting on that, or should I start?
I think if you have something ready to go, Mike, go for it.
Well, it's a story that many people have heard of. It's a news story about something that happened many years ago in the captive breeding program, where two females being housed separately with their mates, so they're housed with males, they found through checking the database, and they have a database, I think approaching 1,000 chicks through the years, and they've found that a chick for both of these females does not have genetic representation for any of the males in the captive breeding program. And so the males that those birds are with are not represented as being the father. And so that's an example of this, what's termed facultative parthenogenesis, where the chick carries only genes by the females. And so this is something that has gained some traction in the news. Two instances in captivity. So it is noteworthy. Usually the reports are from turkeys or chickens or some animals where the females are held separate from the males. And so you'd be able to discover it much easier. But in this case, the males were with the females. So it's been called the virgin births and all sorts of sensational headlines, but it's neither virgin or a birth. I guess birds are not born, they're hatched. And these females produced many chicks prior to this with those males through sexual reproduction. And it just happens that one of those chicks for each did not have representation. So my comment, I guess, is this is something that is very rare, and the offspring are usually characterized in situations like this as having stunted growth. And I was speaking with Joe, he was telling me that Ventana Wildlife Society received one of those birds to be released in Big Sur many years ago, more than 15 years ago. And that bird, that bird didn't make it for very long. And so that's really our association with the story. Anything to add on that?
Not from my end, other than just to say, I think you know, it's one of the big takeaways for me from this story is that there's so we've managed and observed these birds so heavily through the years, and yet there's still things like this that come through and amaze us or surprise us. And it's one of the things I love about condors and being able to work with them is that we don't we don't know what we don't know, and it's exciting to figure that out when we do learn something new like this.
In so many ways, yes, uncharted waters where historically, not a lot of information because the populations were so depressed. And so now we're really learning a lot as we recover these different populations. And Linda in Aptos, California, close by here, she would like us to take a step back, and I think a lot of people are not familiar with the sort of layout of these populations. And so I think it'd be good, Darren, if maybe you can give an overview on the sort of maybe the geography of what we're calling the Central California population, and where Pinnacles fits in. You know, is it the same flock? The sort of distribution of these birds, and then maybe just briefly the other populations of condors.
Sure. Yeah. So when we talk about the Central California population of condors, we are really referring to the birds that have been released and that have been nesting between Big Sur and Pinnacles National Park, all the way down to San Simeon now at this point. And really, that's kind of the core group of birds that we consider the Central California flock. It started in, the flock really started with birds that were released in Big Sur, and then Pinnacles came on a little bit later. But yeah, they've all kind of melded together into this one unit now. And I mean, we're lucky to have some folks on our crew from some of the other management organizations that have worked with other flocks, or even with just the Pinnacles birds over there with Danae coming on recently. She was over at Pinnacles previously, so I'll throw it to some folks here too. Danae, do you want to add anything about the Pinnacles birds?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely Pinnacles is an area where birds hang out, but I always like to emphasize that the Central California flock is Big Sur and Pinnacles combined, and the birds can go from Pinnacles to Big Sur in less than an hour, probably less than 30 minutes if they really wanted to. And so it's sometimes easy to think of Pinnacles birds versus Ventana birds, but they mix so frequently. And there's Ventana birds who have nests at Pinnacles, so like 236 is a bird that's paired with 340, who's a Pinnacles male. So we do often see these Pinnacles Ventana pairs. 589 and 569 is another example, that are birds that they might nest in Pinnacles, they might nest out on the coast, but they could be a combination of Ventana released birds and Pinnacles released birds. And so yeah, all of those birds together are all the same flock, they're all the same birds, and they go back and forth. So it is definitely interesting just to see how, even if birds are released at Pinnacles or San Simeon, like we showed earlier with the maps of those San Simeon birds that were released just last year, and a lot of them are hanging out at Pinnacles now, and who knows, they might hang out there for a few months and then come back to Ventana, come back to Big Sur. So it's really, really interesting how that works. I think we're a bit unique with the Central Cal flock, in that we have these two different management sites and two different management agencies, but we're monitoring the same flock. And I'm sure Kara can chip in a bit and talk about the SoCal flock and how that's a bit different than our Central Cal flock. But yeah, so I'll pass it off to you, Kara.
Yeah, so yeah, I, as some of you might know, interned down in the Southern California population, and those birds are managed by Fish and Wildlife. So with that flock, there's two different wildlife refuges, Bitter Creek Wildlife Refuge, which is kind of outside of Maricopa, or Bakersfield is kind of a bigger area that you might be familiar with. And then the other one is Hopper Mountain National Wildlife Refuge, which is outside of Fillmore. And so those birds are kind of similar to Pinnacles and Big Sur. Those birds definitely travel between Hopper and Bitter Creek, Bitter Creek. But yeah, those are kind of the Southern California birds, but similarly to here, they use both of those refuges and kind of like the Santa Barbara backcountry and stuff to nest.
And we see a lot of different geography, different habitats, just even between the coast and Pinnacles. And it touches on a question from Anna in San Francisco about differences in condors in different regions. She is referring to Sespe down south, and I think we sort of answered that just by how condors travel back and forth so readily between an arid environment in Pinnacles and the coastal environment. And so these birds are pretty much the same. They're just using different habitats and very adaptable in that. We're running a little bit low on time. We're gonna end, but I'd like to just cycle through just a couple more quick questions from Shelley. She asked if condors prefer to reuse new nests every breeding season. They do. So the crew is fortunate to be able to rely generally on consistent nest locations for established pairs. But a real interesting question from Shelley. She asked, how has condor recovery changed in the past decade? And I'll throw out radio transmitters. Since I think I'm the only one who's been here for more than a decade, I'll just go ahead and answer that and say the technology for identifying where birds can go. So these transmitters that rely on cell phone towers and quick uploads can really get us zeroed in on flight paths and identifying areas of risk. And so that would be, I think, my leading answer. And then one last one from Nancy in Hayward, asking if couples are pairing up and beginning courtship, and you've told us that they are. I'll end by saying that I had the pleasure of visiting the sanctuary for the first time in a while yesterday. A nice, beautiful day. And questions about redwood queen. I saw redwood queen and I saw Phoenix and I saw Joe Burnett, and he was out there with his crew looking official. And I asked Joe, hey, what can you tell me about redwood queen and her suitor Phoenix? And Joe's face lit up and said, oh, I've been seeing some very interesting interactions of those two, that he said he was very encouraged by what he was seeing about the interactions between those birds. So everything's good in our observations, your observations of those birds doing what they're supposed to be doing, nesting seasons coming on in just a short amount of time. And so, yes, they are displaying with each other. Thanks so much for your questions. Sorry if I didn't get to all of them. The good news is that there are more opportunities starting December 4th. Sometimes there's a little lag time waiting for birds to leave the pen in their release. And so there's often good time to ask questions and get those taken care of. So join us December 4th. Check out our website for information on RSVPing. Watch condors on Explore or on our website, and then join us next month for our Zoom chat. I'll leave it for Darren for any just last words, and we'll say goodbye and wish you a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you all again for being here. Again, we really appreciate it. We love being able to share our experiences from out in the field and sort of what these birds mean to us with each of you every month. So thank you all again, and as Mike said, have a wonderful Thanksgiving.